This is Winslow's next critique of his lunging, and what I used to do at the time was teach him to lunge and then yell his hindquarters, and then teach him to lunge and yell his shoulders over. And then, like in the last video, it was just him. He was doing both of them, I believe, but this is the second video of like or this would be the third video of doing that. So it would be him yelling his hindquarters and yelling his shoulders over. So I taught them separately, and then I would start putting them together. So and then you can kind of see more of the end goal versus the last video and then the very first video. So again, a lot of pressure. You can still see how unhappy he is with his ears pinned back every time like I yield his hindquarters, head up, tail swish. It's better than it was in the last video, but you can still see how unhappy he is. Like when he gets into the trot and he's swishing his tail, and then when he's yielding his hindquarters here, his head here, yeah, and then swishing there, just very unhappy. Lots more, like he's more responsive and I'm not as intense, but I'm only not like increasing the intensity because he's responding. So like really I shouldn't have put quite that much pressure on him. But yeah, again, you can see the same reaction to the rope that you did in the last video. So overall, the lunging itself looks better, but I'm still doing the same things, like still using a ton of pressure here, not sequencing my cues as much. Same thing with this. I could have slowed way down and just, gently picked up on the rope and sent him the other direction. Same thing here. But I want to point out his body language because I do see people still work with horses like this, and he's extremely unhappy right here. Like you can see him swishing his tail, raising his head up, hitting his ears, just kind of scooting away into the trot, leaning away from me on the circle. And this is like my oldest videos that I have, so this was a long time ago. Even with just me still using negative reinforcement stuff, like I did refine that quite a bit. This is probably like my worst, like heaviest handed, most intensity, most pressure, but I wanted to show it and show you the reaction of the horse, that the reaction that the horses had to it. And he does look slightly off. It might be the sand. I'm not really sure. I don't know if I noticed it at the time, but again, very old video. So definitely notice it now. But yeah, lots of tail swishing, lots of ear pinning, lots of raising the neck up. Completely, his neck's just completely upside down. So then he's hollowing his back. He's not moving correctly, swinging his head because he's afraid that I'm hitting him here. But what I'm trying to do is sensitize him. But you can see his strong reaction to that. And then he does eventually like relax a little bit. There, he's just like taking a deep breath, but it's gonna be after all of that pressure I put on him. Like he's just like, oh my gosh, okay, it's over. Like I can relax a little for a little bit. But then it's like when I do send him out, it's not like this is better than the last two videos on this. You can really see his eye there where he's really looking to the outside. He's leaning his shoulder to the outside as he went by the camera there. But like preparing him and telling him what's coming is going to be the thing that when you're using negative reinforcement horses that helps them to settle and not be so worried about it because they know what's coming next instead of just going in there and like hitting them with rope. Like from my perspective at the time, I'm like, oh well, he's just not moving his shoulders over enough, so I need to go in there and put more pressure. But when watching it back, it's like he didn't know what I wanted. If I would have been more subtle and showed him gently how to move his shoulders over and then sequenced my cue so that he had the opportunity to respond, I would have never had to go to that place where I'm hitting him at the end of the rope. I just didn't give him that time. Like, same thing there. Like I pointed my rope and he had like 1 second to respond, and if he didn't, I was smacking him on the shoulders. Same thing with the hindquarter yield. Like I was not giving him nearly enough time to respond. So head swish, ears back, tail swish, ears back, head up, jumping into the trot, swishing his tail. Lots of him being quite unhappy for very good reason. And I've said this in other videos, but Winslow was a saint. Like he could have really escalated to trying to feel like he needed to protect himself. He could have been charging. biting at me, rearing up, pulling away, running away. Definitely could have gotten to that point because I don't think at the time I noticed him pinning his ears back. So this definitely could have went to where he's starting to try to get me away from him. That's definitely where that could go. And I've seen that with other horses, especially with this kind of lunging or just any kind of lunging where the pressure doesn't go away, which obviously is very frustrating to the horse and or it could be very frightening to the horse, and they feel like they need to get you away, which would be the source of the pressure. And even though like maybe the other hindquarters they turn, they do these different behaviors and it's never enough, there's always pressure. So then they try other behaviors and those behaviors might be charging you, they might be getting too close to you to where you stop putting pressure on them and then they learn quickly to do those things instead. So you can get those behaviors that we consider bad because we've created them and we've not rewarded anything else or released anything else because this isn't a reward. But that I've seen that happen quite a few times. We just nag and we nag and we nag, and then the horse is just tired of it and they want that pressure to stop. But like what happens a lot of the time is you just get a very tolerant horse like Winslow is. Um, but majority of horses are not going to be like that. So you can see him again, head, or I'm keeping his head to the side, but he's looking to the outside. He's pushing his shoulder to the outside. So he's learned through this training that, I'm going to bump his head back to the circle. So he's bent it around, but he's pushing out through that shoulder and he's really looking to the outside on the circle. And then people think that it's working if then once I've tired him out and I've chased him around and I've finally stopped like braiding him with all this pressure that he stands here like this and just relaxes. Well, yeah, he's exhausted. He's just like, leave me alone. I just need a break to sit by myself. So that can definitely be very misleading. Like he's not relaxing at this point. He's just tired of all this pressure. He just needs a minute over here. Like that's what horses do. They like to rest and stuff. They're not out there running around all the time. So even though he looks like this now, like he was definitely not having a great time while I was doing all this lunging with him and really not accomplishing anything either.